Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 10 ownership projections and injury report. We'll get to the injury report first. I'll give you the names of the guys we're watching, plus Ben Rasa from fanvice.com is going to join me a little bit later on to break down everything, the minutia, all the spin you need on some of these injuries and how it pertains to who's going to be owned on DraftKings, at least on the main slate in Week 10, and where some of those pivot opportunities are going to be. So if you want to jump ahead to that, go nuts. But I'm going to run through the injury report for you right now. Out for Week 10, at least officially out. There could be more news breaking. I try to do this as late as possible, but sometimes guys just get declared out. Ezekiel Elliott, as of right now, is not going to play in Week 10. And it doesn't look like that's going to change, but who the fuck knows with this situation? It's been ridiculous all the way through. But for right now, it looks like it's going to be Alfred Morris, then Rod Smith, and Darren McFadden, at least in terms of the depth chart. But I wouldn't put any stock into a whole lot of these guys. I still think McFadden's the best play, although he's listed number 3. I think he has the most talent of all these guys. And the thing with Morris is, if you start him, you have to hope that Dallas jumps out to a lead in this game. If they do not, you're not going to see a whole lot of Alfred Morris on the field. The guy can't pass catch. If they have to throw, you're probably going to see Smith or McFadden. I would put the experience, especially with the pass blocking experience, with McFadden. That's why I will end up going with him if I had to choose. Ideally, I don't have to use any of these guys. I can wait and see how it works out. Raza and I will actually dive into this deeper at how it pertains to DraftKings, and the quick answer, don't use any of them. Find better options. More guys that are out in Week 10. Matt Forte is not going to play. Obviously, a huge bump up with Bilal Powell. Zay Jones will not be playing for the Bills. Kelvin Benjamin will return, so will Charles Clay. So that's that situation. Jeremy Hill not playing for the Bengals, and Ryan Griffin will be out for the Texans, potentially for the season, with a concussion. Doubtful for Week 10. Chris Hogan still in a sling. He's not officially out, so he's still listed as doubtful for the moment. Don't expect him to play, and see a bump up for Danny Amendola in terms of targets, and potentially some Rex Burkhead. Some people might filter towards Philip Dorsett. I am not one of those people. I would actually play Amendola, then Burkhead, then Dorsett in that order if that's where you're going with the Patriots passing game. None of them are terrific starts against Denver, but that would be, in terms of volume, what you should be expecting. So Chris Hogan, not likely to play with a shoulder injury. Then Jordan Reed did not practice on Friday with a hamstring problem. He's probably not going to play. Golladay got in a limited practice. Kenny Golladay, with his hamstring, he's been out for like 2 years now. I wouldn't expect him back this week. Maybe next week for Kenny Golladay. And Martellus Bennett, obviously cut by the Packers earlier this week, signed with the Patriots. He's been practicing, but he's a rotator cuff issue. He may not end up playing at all this season. He might just play through it. We don't know, but it's unlikely that he suits up for New England on Sunday. Now, guys that are likely to play in Week 10. There's a whole lot of them that we thought, might be iffy earlier in the week. Des Bryant, with a knee and ankle injury, says he's ready to go. And who am I to call Des a liar? This guy's going to be on the field against Atlanta. It's a big game for both teams, so expect to see him out there. Will he be 100%? I don't know, but Dez is in a great spot in this matchup. Also, we have Charles Clay expected to return. Danny Amendola's knee looks like it's going to be okay. Marcus Wheaton in his groin injury will be back for the first time in many, many weeks. Then Emmanuel Sanders in his ankle. He's going to play again. Julio Jones and his ankle problem will be on the field. T.Y. Hilton in a groin may not be 100% in a really terrible matchup against the Steelers. However, if T.Y. is one of your guys, you might have to go with him. But as we've seen with T.Y. almost every single week, it's going to be 175 yards or 20 yards. This is probably going to be a 20 yards type of week, but if you don't have better options, you might just have to go with T.Y. anyway. If you do have better options, play them over T.Y. Hilton. Don't use them on DraftKings unless you're playing the all-time contrarian lineup, as Raza and I will talk about. No one's using them, so that's a thing, but come on. This is a bad matchup with a guy who's dealing with a tweaked groin and just a terrible spot. So it's going to be tough for T.Y. Hilton here. If you want to use him, go nuts. Also, Curtis Samuel probably will play with an ankle injury, but he will be limited. Marquise Lee has been doing the same thing for the past 3 weeks now. He's got a knee problem. Didn't practice, practiced on Friday. He'll be good to go. Jamison Crowder looks like he will return for the Skins, and it looks like Jordan Reed will not. Both could play, both could sit, but right now, Jamison is trending up. Jordan Reed is trending down. C.J. Fedorowicz for the Texans. I like Steven Anderson at the outset of the week because of Griffin's injury, and Tom Savage was just looking his way. But now C.J. Fedorowicz is going to be back. He is the superior tight end in this spot. Unless somehow Savage and Anderson do have a really good rapport, I wouldn't be banking on that. Just don't use either of them. See how the situation plays out. Maybe because Savage sucks, that Fedorowicz could end up being good because of his short A-dot routes, but it's a wait-and-see situation, and not one with much upside whatsoever. Finally, Delaney Walker has an ankle injury. He's had an ankle injury for ages now. He will more than likely play. And here's a fun fact. No one's using him on DraftKings, but he'd be a top 10 tight end for me this week and season long. Guys that were taken off the injury report. Demaryius Thomas, no longer appearing on the injury report. Neither is Kenny Britt or Michael Thomas. All good news, positive outlooks, and will play on Sunday in Week 10. All right. That's enough for the injury report. Let's dig in deeper on how this affects the DraftKings ownership with Ben Rasa from fanvice.com. Coming up right after this. Welcome back to the Pat Mayo Experience. Now diving in to the Week 10 Millionaire Maker on DraftKings ownership projections. Going to use some of the sentiment rankings on FanShare Sports and talk about some more of these injury situations in depth or where it might free up some value come Sunday. And joining me to break this all down is the Conan of the Pat Mayo Experience. It's Ben Rasa. What's going on, dude?
Look at that! I got a new flavor to my name this week. I'm moving up in the world.
You are. I mean, you got upgraded from the Rick Moranis of the show.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'll take what I can get. Any help is most appreciated. Yeah, we're in the second half of NFL. The season is moving here. Crazy.
Hey, it's almost time for golf to get back into full swing here.
Yeah, I can't wait. Almost done with these swing season tournaments. No shot tracker this week. Kind of is brutal to sweat it out. But yeah, full season just around the corner.
That'll be so nice. It's funny because I like trying to do the golf shows intermix with NFL. It's so hard to I'm so focused on NFL that it's hard to keep up on all the PGA stuff that as soon as football ends, it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot to dig into here.
Oh yeah. No, new wave of golfers. There's a lot of dudes I've never heard of. So juggling these two sports has been a little difficult. But yeah, I'm excited for it to get going.
All right, well, let's get into the FanShare Sport tags. I'm going to sort by start tags from each position and go down the list. So let's start at running backs. Lev Bell comes in at number 1. That should not be a surprise to anyone playing Indianapolis, although he is the most highest priced running back by a pretty wide margin this week. Then it's Orleans Darkwa, Jordan Howard, Matt Forte, who is now injured, so you probably need to take him off the list. Bilal Powell has already surged up to number 7 on this list. I would expect him to actually overtake Orleans Darkwa in terms of ownership this week because Powell is $4,000, Darkwa is $45,000, and it seems like people just trust that Jets offense a little bit more. The one concern that I've seen from that game, at least, I mean, I would 100% go Powell over Darkwa in this spot, but it seems like the wins might pick up, which could actually play into the benefit of Bilal Powell, but through the receiving game, he might see a little bit of a tick down. But I would expect touch-wise, Powell to definitely out-touch Darkwa in this spot.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely going to get a huge ownership bump now that Forte is out. It's really hard to, I was looking for reasons to maybe move away from him, but man, this spot is great. The weather could be a factor. I did see that too. Have to keep an eye on it to Sunday, but he's going to get the volume, and at that price tag, it's going to be hard for him to really mess up. Bell, I'm interested to see where he actually lands with ownership because obviously you couldn't have a better matchup, and he's matchup proof anyway. But man, 9,800 is no bargain, so that puts some type of a strain on the rest of the teams. With enough value this week, I think you can do it, but I'm not sure how many people will actually go all the way up.
I think I'm actually going to be one of, if it's going to be few people, I'm going to be one of the few that is going to do it. You have a 10-point favorite. Now, it is on the road, so you never know because the Steelers' offense generally struggles there, but Bell tends to smash when he goes onto the road. You could probably project him out 25, 30 touches in this game. Maybe it's more carries than anything else, but he needs to hit those touchdowns in order to return that value. But if you pair him up with someone like Powell or even Adam Humphries at wide receiver, even though that is a win game, he runs very short A-dot routes. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Then you can afford Le'Veon Bell, and then you can afford Jordan Howard to go along with him, and all is right in the world.
Yeah, no, I think this Powell news is actually going to affect Bell's ownership too because they're going to be highly correlated this week. Just as salary relief, the guys who may get lost to an extent is that next tier. Obviously now every day Zeke is out, then he's in. Now it looks like he's out, but Gurley, Fournette, in that range, I feel like if most people do go up, they will go all the way up. So I'm going to look possibly to Fournette. He's kind of forgotten. He's been off for weeks now between the bye and the injury, and then he was suspended. Not a bad matchup with the Chargers at home. I expect to lean on him pretty heavily. So it's an interesting spot for him.
Well, when you sort by price range, like the guys that are, at least to me, look like they're going to go under-owned. One is LaShawn McCoy, two is Mark Ingram. I completely sign off on that one. But even Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey seem like they're getting overlooked in this spot. And I mean, I kind of agree with it because, like, everyone's sort of on Carlos Hyde. I understand why I think I would prefer Jordan Howard there. But then you have Kamara and Christian McCaffrey right around that same price range. Jarek is there as well, and people seem to be more on him. I would be okay with taking a chance on Christian McCaffrey, though.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I mean, he's not in the main
slate. Yeah, is the problem.
But yeah, he's an interesting target. Obviously, with Kelvin Benjamin gone, I mean, the volume it was already sky high, and it's only going to get higher. He's just getting as many targets as he can handle, and it looks like, I mean, his rushing stats can only get better. He has done nothing. But yeah, Hyde's interesting. I think he's really safe again in cash. If he didn't get, it was late, but the ejection didn't help last week, obviously, that bozo. And then I'll go back to Mixon a little. He gets lost, but he's taken over the Bengals' backfield, and he's just super explosive. The big game is coming. I don't know if it's this week, but I'm just going to keep buying till it hits.
Well, I think I would rather go Howard over Hyde, especially in cash games this week. Just I like the matchup a little bit more. And ever since that Mitch Trubisky took over as quarterback, that Jordan Howard is seeing 25 touches a game, irregardless of what happens. So I really like him in this situation. It's funny because Aaron Jones is $6,400, and I guess it depends on how you think game flow works here, because Ty Montgomery came back in during garbage time, and when they got down, they started passing to him, thus taking Jones out of the situation. Jones is $6,400. He has 0 start tags, 4 sit tags. Completely understand. I think that's very justifiable. But do you see any path to Aaron Jones making an impact this weekend? Is he someone you would take a flyer on, or is it just the situation's not worth it?
For me, I'm not going there. It would be one thing if there was one running back right next to him that I think is in a good spot, and you could say, maybe he gets an outlier game and he can pass Jordan Howard. I just see no path that he has such a big game that he outdoes Howard and Hyde. I feel very confident that both of them are going to play well, but especially one of them. So there's just too many other guys in that same range for me to go Jones at all.
Devonta Freeman has 8 start tags, 2 sit tags. He's $6,000. Mixon, I like that call a little bit because everyone wanted to pile on him the last 2 weeks, and it didn't really work out in terms of hitting his upside. That people just might say, screw it, I'm off of him now. And this isn't a terrible matchup against Tennessee, but the one that you talked about Zeke, and Zeke is going to be suspended for this game, at least as of Friday afternoon. He's going to be suspended for this game. I don't see courts aren't working on the weekend, so he's probably not going to end up starting Sunday. But do people go to Morris? Do people go to McFadden? Do people go to Rod Smith? When I talked about this 2 weeks ago, when it looked like he was going to be suspended for the main slate, that it's hard to really put any faith into the Dallas running backs because, A, you don't know the situation. Although it looks like Alfred Morris is going to be the guy, I'm not entirely convinced that Darren McFadden doesn't work his way back into this. It could be Rod Smith, for all that we know. And the opportunity cost of taking one of these guys, even at their price point, are any of them really going to win you a GPP? It seems like they just might make you not cash.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in the Dallas backfield at all. There's too many guys that you talked about, and you're not getting that big a price break. Morris and McFadden are over 5,000. I would absolutely take Mixon over them. I would look to multiple guys. And you just don't know how it's going to shake out. Like you said, one of them could have a good game, but is one of them really going to, get a 4 or 5x return that you really want anyway for a big field tournament? I don't think so.
All right, so the highest owned running backs of the week probably going to be Powell, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Powell, Howard, Hyde.
Yeah, I would say that, and then Bell in terms of the top tier. I think the 2 mid-range, Powell for salary relief, and then Bell for people who can afford to go all the way up.
All right, let's move to wide receivers. Number 1 on this list. Are you looking at the list right now by chance?
I am not.
All right, who do you think the most tagged in terms of start wide receiver is for this week?
Let's see. I will say, I don't want to go double stealer, but Antonio Brown, did they go all the way to the top?
Antonio Brown is number 3 on this list.
I thought I had it.
Number 1, Robbie Anderson.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So people have the Jets fever. My God. I do like them, but,
If that's a win game, I don't know if I love him so much.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor because he's a burner. He's a deep ball threat. Jets offense sets up super well, especially in stacks because they're so cheap. I mean, you can pair McCown, him, Powell. And you're not allocating a ton of salary, so it is a really interesting spot. I didn't think he would be that popular though. That's really interesting. Yeah, definitely have to keep an eye on the weather though, because that could be a good fade if it looks windy and people are over-owning him.
So Robbie Anderson's number one by a pretty wide margin, 28 start tags to Marvin Jones's 23. Then it's Antonio Brown, A.J. Green, Mohamed Sanu, Humphreys, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Robert Woods, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I was really surprised by that more people aren't on like the negative vibes here. There's 13 start tags to 1 sit tag. Now, for season-long purposes, I like Juju Smith-Schuster. He has some upside. But for DraftKings on Sunday, I mean, he's a fade for me, especially with Martavis Bryant working his way back in. Not to say that he can't, have an explosion game or have some long touchdowns, but the guy that does the same thing that he does is now returning. And you can just run the ball in this game. There might be no reason to pass. Yes, Antonio Brown always gets his, but after that, it could just be the Le'Veon Bell show.
Yep, I totally agree. I like Juju Smith. I think he's going to be a really good player overall, but the Steelers have too many mouths to feed already, and they have, Bell and Brown, and you said Martavis Bryant, and then you add in just, Jesse James, random people, in a game that they should really control. I wouldn't be stunned late in the fourth quarter if, throwing is not even in the repertoire at this point. So he's not where he was in terms of salary. 5,600 is just a little too much than I want to pay for a guy who at best is the third option, behind Bell and Brown. And I don't think the volume is there for the upside.
Adam Humphreys is on this list. I really like Adam Humphreys this week. Only $3,100. You know he's going to see some increased looks without Mike Evans around. Now there's talk that Chris Godwin's going to be the guy replacing Evans in that spot. Maybe he becomes the pivot off of him because no one's really talking him up. But again, where this is a wind game, Adam Humphreys rarely ventures more than like 6 yards down the field. That he might be a big beneficiary if the wind actually does kick up because it's going to be so many easy completions.
Yeah, I mean, at that price point, obviously you'd love for him to find the end zone, but he really doesn't need to. If he's catching 5-6 balls, easy checkdowns and whatnot, he's going to rack up points in a hurry. And that's kind of the difference, when we were just talking about Juju. This is a price range where it's like, okay, I don't have to really worry about him getting the volume. I know he's going to be on the field. Evans is suspended. The Bucs, I don't think Fitzpatrick is that big of bump down from the way Jameis is playing. It might be an improvement. So yeah, Humphreys is just definitely in play at 3,100. I mean, that's as cheap as you're going to find.
And the weird thing about Humphreys is, yes, he's going to be popular because he's $3,100, but there's no one really else down in that price range that people are going to go to. I mean, I don't care if he is 15% owned or whatever he is. It allows me so much access to the top of the board that I can differentiate up there between really good guys and not really worry about it. And what's the downside to Adam Humphreys in the spot? Let's say he turns in a basement performance. What's a basement performance for Adam Humphreys in this spot? Like 3 for 30?
Yeah, no.
And if that's the case, he has not killed you.
Yeah, not at all. That's the thing. I mean, with the situation he's in, it would take a performance that I really couldn't see coming for him to not return 2x. Not that you're looking for that, but my God, it's going to be hard to get by if he has a big game at that price. You're looking at a 6 or 7x return, which is gigantic. It's tough to miss that when the opportunity's there.
Well, let's say he just has his typical Adam Humphreys game where he ends up going 5 for 50. I mean, he's already returned 3x for you. He's done his job. Of course you want more than that, but the potential is there. And it seems like his median score is going to be at least 3 times the value. So I don't really care what the ownership is if people are worrying about fading him for that reason. And if he allows you to get Bell and A.J. Green into your lineup, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, like you kind of touched upon, there's other spots this week where I think I'm going more against the grain. That's not a spot where I'm really looking to make a big stand. I'll take some stabs up top with some of the elite receivers and maybe try to correlate something a little different to get away from the other Humphrey owners, but I don't want to be on an island without him.
Where do you think it goes at the top? It seems like people are going to own Brown, and if they can't afford Brown, or they take Bell and they don't like to put the two together, they're probably just going to drop to A.J. Green. That seems to be where everything is going, and then below that, Marvin Jones is sort of the next person up, and then Tate, if you can afford it, but he's sort of in that in-between period. So you have like Thielen, Des Bryant, who looks like he's going to play, Michael Thomas, who looks like he's going to play, DeAndre Hopkins, obviously in the bad situation. Then you have Julio Jones, who did practice on Friday. It looks like he's going to play as well. Where do you differentiate at the top of receiver if you want to?
For me, it's Julio. I'm not getting off. I thought I was celebrating when that ball was in the air last week. I was dying. My God, that should have been the spot. Not that he still was fine, but that was the Julio game I've been waiting for. Yeah, it looks like he's good to go this week. I mean, I'm hoping, we get word that he's not limited in any way, and I will be loading up again on him in a game where I think it's going to be a shootout. Most people are leaning A.J. Green anyway, so that's my kind of against the grain up there. Not that he's going to be you can never get, super low-owned Julio, but, man, it's an appealing spot. Just like last week, I really liked him. I think this is another time to load up.
The other guy is sort of in that next level down. You have like Marvin Jones, who's going to be super chalky, and I understand why. It's a great matchup, and he's been excellent, and he seems like he's underpriced. I'm good with using Marvin Jones. I wouldn't worry about that. But after them, it's like, T.Y. Hilton has 5 start tags and 8 sit tags. He's dealing with a groin injury. I know Pittsburgh has shut down basically everyone. If T.Y. isn't at full speed, then maybe he's absolutely useless. But if no one's going to use him, the big play potential for T.Y., does that interest you at all?
Man, I'm such a T.Y. fan too. And you saw last week, the guy can just go absolutely nuts. But I do not think I'm going to have exposure this week to him, which hurts because it's scary at home too. Yeah, I don't love this spot from him. If you really want to get dangerously saying, not that it's the same pivot, but I always have a soft spot for someone who no one will be on, which is Moncrief at the dirt cheap minimum.
He's awful, though.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's really not a good football player. But they have such limited options. I know Doyle is the other weapon there, but I don't want to give up on Moncrief. He's been killing me all year. I've been sprinkling when he's been like 1% each week. Not something I'm seriously looking into in terms of a core player or anything, but I don't think I'm going to have much room for T.Y. this week.
The guys in the mid-range, like the 55 and down high-owned guys, will be Sterling Shepard, Robbie Anderson, and Mohamed Sanu, all in great spots. Completely understandable. The guys that aren't going to be owned, Keenan Allen, Jordy Nelson, Ted Ginn is somewhat surprising. I know there could be more wind in that Buffalo game. People don't like the narrative of the Saints outdoors, da-da-da-da-da, but if someone's going to hit a home run in that game, it's probably Ted Ginn.
Yeah, that's Ted Ginn's. He's been so good this year, which I've had literally 0 every week. So I can't start now with this price where it is. I don't love the matchup either. The other two are interesting, though. Hunley's obviously not showing much, but Jordy's price is getting down kind of to where T.Y. Hilton's was last week, where it was just like, all right, I'm just going to have to start playing this guy because the volume is going to be there. In a game with a low total, it's not super appealing for tournaments. And then with Sanu, I'm not really looking there just because I'm more on the Julio train. Obviously, if we get word that Julio might be a decoy or something like that, it's a huge boost to Sanu. But other than that, not super interested in this mid-range besides the obvious Sterling Shepard, Robbie Anderson.
Quarterbacks, if we go to the top, you got Josh McCown and Ryan Fitzpatrick, number 1 and 2 and then Matt Stafford's number 3. Those 3 guys are on an island together that everyone's using them. And then it's Goff, Eli, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott. Without Zeke, against Atlanta, I wasn't big on Dak coming into the week, but if no one is going to be using Dak, he's been excellent. And now without the best run option around, isn't Dak kind of shaping up to be the play here?
So I wasn't really high on him this week either, but with the amount of value that's breaking and quarterback pricing as a whole, he's the highest priced guy, but he's only 7,300.
Exactly.
It's not really breaking the bank. Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting spot for him. I don't mind going up there. Stafford's the obvious if you want a safe play. He's got the perfect matchup in the dome. Don't mind that. And if you're punting, you can go all the way down to Fitzpatrick. But
I actually like Andy Dalton the best of those guys at the bottom.
Ooh. Really? You're on the
Yeah.
Dalton train?
Well, it's funny because I'm never on the Dalton train. Even when he was chalk a couple weeks ago, I was like, Andy Dalton kind of reeks. Like, whenever Andy Dalton's going to be chalk, just never use him. That generally works out well for people. But Tennessee's secondary is brutal. And they can score enough points to force Dalton to keep throwing all the time. And if we love A.J. Green, like he's going to be the absolute monster this week, and everyone's using him, why not give him a look?
Yeah, I mean, if you are loading up on AJ Green, which most people are, and I'm definitely going to have exposure as well, you're going to have to throw some Dalton in there. And then on the other side, we didn't really mention him, but Corey Davis, who's back off injury. The Titans, that could be a sneaky game. You know, we talked last week, and I'll reiterate this. I think this is kind of just a Millie Maker staple. Mariota is always in play, just the way he is. And when his price is where it is at this point, 5,800, he just has massive upside every week. I'm not saying he gets there. Nothing about this matchup really stands out. I do like that he's home, and I like that he's getting his weapons back. Hopefully Delaney does play.
Delaney's going to play.
Yeah, and I think him, you know, if you really want to look for definitely an under-owned game stack, you know, pairing up Mariota and Delaney with A.J. Green on the other side, or, you know, Dalton, A.J. Green, and, you know, some of those weapons could be an interesting little strategy.
Would you throw DeMarco Murray into that mix too? Because we didn't even bring him up. No one's using him.
I said this last. I just try to pretend that that's not. I can't get him and Henry right. I don't even try anymore.
All right.
It's too complicated.
To go to your Marcus Mariota point, he's 17th in tags this week, and this combines the main slate and the primetime slate. But he actually has fewer start tags than Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah, that's not good at all. Nope. I mean, Brock's only 4,400. I think that's why he has some start tags, if any, but that just seems insane.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, Brock, we don't even need to talk about him, obviously. But, yeah, no, Mariota, it's one of those things. He's going to have a couple games a year where he absolutely, kind of like Cam, where he just goes nuts. He goes nuts on the ground, and he goes 6, 7x, which most quarterbacks don't have unless you have running upside. So it's definitely a big risk reward. It's not a core play of mine. I'd probably lean going all the way up to Dak. If the weather holds up, you know, the two obvious quarterbacks do make sense. And again, I will have, since I'm really high on Julio, I'll stick with Matt Ryan on the other side of that shootout, potentially in Atlanta.
Is that the game stack that you think is the safest?
Yeah, I think most people want to, and as do I, want to stack the Jets Bucks because it's so cheap. You can stack and not you can stack that game and then load up with weapons, you know, AJ Green and some of the other top tier guys. But if the wind is a big factor, I don't know if that's going to be a viable solution. So if that's the case, Dallas and Atlanta, you know, in Atlanta, the weather won't be an issue, obviously. It's hard to imagine that game doesn't get high scoring.
And it seems like the Bucks-Jets game is the saving stack game. Dallas, the Falcons seems to be sort of the upside one. The third highest owned game stack this week, I think, weirdly is going to be the 49ers and Giants.
Yeah, I mean,
that worries me.
Dumpster fires, but God, that is, I don't know what I mean. I would have to think that the Giants put forward a better effort just by default after last week. I mean, but it's hard to really look at that game. There's just so little talent. It's hard to even put a stack together because they're all so awful.
All right, here's a stack that I think could come through. Now, these are two good defenses, although I can see the offenses performing quite well in this game, and this quarterback is 23rd in start tags this week. No one's playing Kirk Cousins. He just went to Seattle and looked pretty good. Now he's at home against Minnesota. Minnesota, good defense? Yes. Trent Williams going to be back in this game. Maybe he has a bit more time. Jamison Crowder could be back. There's an outside chance Jordan Reed returns. I mean, if he's going to be sub 1%.
Yeah, no one is going to be on Cousins. And he's kind of like Mariota in the sense that he has some monster games.
And he has rushing touchdown upside as well. He rushes in touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is a complete wild card. Range of outcomes is gigantic. It's a tough spot. I mean, his weapons are all banged up. The line has been banged up, but he's been dealing with that for a while now, and he's still holding his own. So at home, if you're really looking for a super off-the-wall stack, I mean, yeah, I don't mind that. I'm not really high on the other side of that game, though. That's the tough part for me. I don't really like Minnesota this week outside of Rudolph.
See, I like Thielen just because he's going to man the slot.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he gets away obviously from their outside corners who are really good. But man, I don't know. It's just tough when you have those two other appealing games, and then you have the Steelers game in the dome. The problem with the Steelers obviously is you can't really stack because their weapons are too expensive.
All right, let's move to tight ends. Cameron Brate comes in at number one because why wouldn't he? Everyone in that game is super highly owned except for one guy, which we'll talk about here in a second. Cameron Brate, Garrett Selleck, because he's the absolute min. He's $2,500 and he has the best matchup playing the Giants. I get it. And there's no George Kittle, so boom. Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph, Gronk's on the primetime slate, so don't worry about him. Ebron, Tyler Kroft, Jack Doyle. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is 8th on this list on the main slate. This is a revenge situation for Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Everyone loves this game, but no one's using him.
Yeah, that's always what. That's not a secret strategy of mine by any chance, but I always look for a game that's going to shoot out, but how can I get exposure in a way that most people won't? And he's one of the best ways to do that. I don't know why people aren't high on him. He's super athletic and he's really, really good. The wins a factor that can only help him. He's not running extreme deep routes, and it might mitigate Robbie Anderson to an extent. So yeah, I mean, he's not going to be where I thought he would be ownership wise. I do like Delaney in the same range. That's my one hesitation. I've been kind of off Delaney, and I'm jumping back on this week. And then in terms of cheapies, it's kind of tough down there. Obviously, you got the min with the Niners. But other than that, I can't believe, and I'm doing it too, looking at Ebron just feels wrong. It really does.
It should feel wrong because I feel like everyone's going to own Ebron, and then Darren Fells is going to score the touchdowns.
Yeah, probably multiple it would only be fitting if that guy has like 3 touchdowns, because I just can't believe I've sworn off Ebron like everybody else, and now I'm like, 3,100, the Browns. I can't believe I'm gonna probably have exposure to it. It's really disturbing.
Delaney Walker right now 18th in tags for the week between all slates. I believe that makes him 15th for the prime slate. So you're going to get him at basically no ownership. You do want to make sure that he actually plays, so just keep up to date on Sunday morning. You can do that live on DKTV on the Facebook page /DraftKings. I'll be there. We'll be talking through the inactives at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so we'll get you updated on that. But I like Steven Anderson coming into the week because I knew Ryan Griffin was out, and then Tom Savage was looking at him. It's a high passing spot, but it looks like CJ Fedorowicz will return Sunday, so I don't like that anymore. The guy that I'd be looking at, though, $4,200, Charles Clay is going to be back. And as I remember, Charles Clay was really good every week but one when he was healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of Taylor's favorite weapons. Obviously,
it is Taylor's favorite weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I was going to say, weapons out of, if you take out Shady from the passing game, he literally has no one. You obviously have to see, how does Kelvin Benjamin gel, but I'm sure they're not going to be up to immediate speed right now. So Clay's going to fit right back into his role, which is plenty of red zone looks and just being that safety blanket for him. And a guy, anytime in any sport, I say this often on the Fan Vice shows, if you see a guy with one of the injury tags next to his name, that automatically shrinks his ownership somewhat because people just don't want to play a guy who's somewhat injured.
All right, finally, let's close out with defenses and special teams. My favorite cheap defense of the week, cheap in quotation marks defense of the week, the Chicago Bears, coming at number one by an overwhelming margin, 25 start tags. Next is the Rams at 12. I like both those defenses this week, but it looks like the Bears are going to be very, very chalky against Green Bay. So Bears, Rams, Lions, Steelers, Giants, Saints, Jags, Jets, Cowboys. Now, there's 4 defenses that I'm rotating through this week. I think all are good plays. The Bears, the Rams, the Steelers, and the Saints, they all match up in terms of DVOA pass rush versus bad offensive lines, and they're in situations where the other team is going to have to pass the entire game. So that's what you want to see from those outcomes. I don't think you need to go scumming down. There's enough ways to save money this week that if you need to pay up for a defense, you're not breaking the bank paying for a defense. I mean, the highest one is going to be, the Rams? No, the Steelers are probably the most expensive, and the Steelers might be the best play of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Colts have serious issues, and they're going to be playing from behind. I lean the Rams just overall. I know they're going to be super popular, but for good reason. I have, like most people, no faith in Savage. They're at home. They're going to get to him because he can't move, and 3,600 just makes sense. I'm going to take one stab off the wall. I'm going with the Redskins defense. No one will be on them. I just really don't like Minnesota's offense when they're away from home. So just think it's a definite good pivot off the Bears defense, who's going to be super popular, like you talked about. And I think they have a little upside. Obviously, it's high variance with defenses, though.
Sure, and the Redskins do have a top 10 pass rush right now, so
Yeah.
that's something to look
Yeah.
for. You just have to hope that Cousins can get them out to a lead, and then, either Keenum or I'm not completely unconvinced that we don't see Bridgewater at some point.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm not sure. Like I kind of hope we do, in the sense that he can't be. I mean, he's been out of the game for a while.
Well,
right
put it
now.
this way. If we see Teddy Bridgewater in this game, either your Washington defense has scored negative 10 points or 30 points.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's an extreme situation one way or another, which I will certainly take with that type of flyer. So, but yeah, I agree. I mean, defense. We talked about this a little last week. It's not a place you're going to try to get your savings if you can, but you don't have to get too fancy here when there's so many obvious ones this time of the year.
And if everyone's going to use the Bears, just if you want to pivot off of it and use a safety, just go up and use the Saints. They're like $300 more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I pivot a little down, but there's what you rattled them off right there: Steelers, Rams, Saints, all really good targets.
Ben Rasa, check him out on Twitter at JazzRazDFS and on FanVice.com. What you guys got coming up there?
Yeah, well, we're getting ready. We're putting together the PGA package. So January, it's going to be rolling out. Got some new things with me. And then obviously every day, NBA projections from our other golf guy. Andrew's been in the lab with that. And then we have football, MMA, all the sports. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, come on, sign up and give us a try.
All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter. Plus on Facebook, if you want to scroll through it, it's all the content all week. It's the easiest place to find all the links to everything all in one spot. On Twitter, it can get kind of mangled because I'm tweeting and then there's other stuff. On the Facebook page, it's just the content. Exclusive video as well. That's facebook.com/thepme. You can follow the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Audio Boom for the audio versions. And of course, the DraftKings YouTube page for all the video versions. Thanks for being on the line, Ben.
Anytime. I will talk soon.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in Week 10. I'll see you next time.